Hi, Michael Valitutti, graduate gemologist, and my gem talk today is about Tsavorite. Tsavorite garnet, that beautiful rich green member of the grossular family of garnets. So, garnets are part of a group. I want you to imagine, I think there's 6 groups of garnets. They're like cousins. They're all related. They got a lot of the same DNA, but each one has something a little bit different that makes them a member of a certain group. So this group, Tsavorite garnet, is a member of what we call grossular garnet. Where do they come up with these terms? Well, it's a botanical term, grossular, and I think it refers to grossularia, which refers to a certain plant that kind of has bumps on it, and that's where they get the term grossular garnet. You'll often see it in like a hyacinth garnet, and that's kind of more of a cinnamon-colored stone, and you can also have it in the green variety, which is what Tsavorite is. Now, Tsavorite garnet is one of the most expensive garnets in the world, very, very coveted. It is a calcium aluminum silicon oxide, no color enhancement whatsoever in Tsavorite. And it gets its color from the element of vanadium, excuse me, and chromium. So both are occurring at the same time. And I'll explain to you the differences, because if one is higher than the other, it actually changes the intensity of green. So Tsavorite garnets can only be green color. That's the only color that they can be. Anyway, they're very brilliant stones because they have a very high refractive index. So they're 174 is the refractive index. Now, a sapphire is 174 to 176, so it's in that same range as a sapphire. So that's why when you buy a Tsavorite piece of jewelry, it is so bright and sparkly. So folks, the higher the refractive index, the more brilliant it will appear to the human eye. And the more shiny surface reflections you're going to get off the surface. That's why we love diamonds so much. A lot of it has to do, quite frankly, with their high refractive index and their ability to reflect light. And it gives us that scintillation. So you're going to get something kind of similar to that with Tsavorite garnet. It's a beautiful stone. Let me tell you that Tsavorite garnet, the typical size range is going to be from about 0.05 carat, which is a 5-point stone, little tiny stone, to about 3 carat. According to my GIA manuals, the biggest stone in a finished stone of Tsavorite ever recorded was only 5 carat. So it is really a stone that does not form very large. As you can see, we're flashing back and forth to the crystals on my turnstile here. Certain stones have a crystal habit where they can be very big, like quartz. You get massive pieces of quartz. Tsavorite is a very, very different stone, so never expect to see a very big Tsavorite. If you do, it's a ton of money. I don't think I've ever presented a Tsavorite, I should say, above 1 carat. They're very, very expensive. Matter of fact, I'm lucky to have them. I've only been able to handle them in the past few years because of some contacts that I've made, because they're very expensive. Anyway, it was discovered in 1971 in Kenya, and by a famed British geologist, and his name was Campbell Bridges. Really great, great gentleman. We studied him at GIA. He discovered it in Kenya. Actually, he originally discovered it in 1967 in Tanzania. And if you've ever been, there's Tanzania here, and right above that there's Kenya. Okay, there's a border area, it's a straight line. Okay, so he actually discovered it in Tanzania. At that time, the Tanzanian government in the late 60s would not allow you to export gemstones. So if you found the stone, it could not leave their borders. What are you going to do, right? So he couldn't export it, he couldn't develop the mine. So he says, I'm a geologist. He followed the vein, believe it or not, over right to the border of Kenya and found it just on the other side, in the Kenyan side of the border, and he was able to develop the mine. He called his mine the famous Scorpion Mine, and it's named after Tsavo National Park. And the word Tsavo, T-S-A-V-O, that means man-eater. In that part of Africa, they have these lions. They're very big, and they're known for not having any manes. You know, the big hair? And they're man-eaters. Remember that film, The Ghost in the Darkness? That actually did happen. And that's where that was filmed. And those are man-eating lions there, and they're called Tsavo. Tsavo means man-eater. And, you know, on the Serengeti Plains, they're very beautiful and all that. The lions hide there, but we don't have to worry about that. But that's where it gets the name. So there's a lot of history tied with this. Where did it get its name from? Tsavorite Good old Tiffany and Company coined the term. They coined the term back, I believe it was 1974. So in the 60s they introduced tanzanite. Then in 1974 they introduced Tsavorite. So they were very good at naming things, Tiffany and Company, and that was the first time. I would have been in the 10th grade at the time. That's the first time Tsavorite was available to the world market. Before that it really wasn't known, and he discovered it. It's a fantastic stone. Again, it undergoes no treatment whatsoever. It is one of the most rarest and coveted garnets in the world. It's extremely attractive, and it gets its color, like I said, naturally from vanadium and chromium. Now, there's two basic shades when it comes to Tsavorite. You're going to get, this is more of a medium, sometimes I've called it myself, a mint color. And this particular Tsavorite here will have more vanadium than chromium. By the way, vanadium and chromium are the same elements that make an emerald green, okay? But when you get a lot of chromium versus vanadium, so you get maybe like 60-70% chromium versus the vanadium, these stones will be very dark. They'll almost remind you of chrome dioxide or the deepest, darkest emerald. Those Tsavorite, and you'll see me on our website or on television, I will actually have both available. The very dark, that's more chromium based, and the other one, which is sort of mint, which you're seeing right here, is a more vanadium based. Though they both have the same elements, when one element is higher, with chromium, it tends to give you that incredible, luscious, deep, rich color of green, which is what happens in emeralds too. And it's funny because that part of the world, East Africa, you have Kenya, you have Tanzania, you have Zambia. That part of the world has a lot of what we call mafic rocks and ultramafic rocks. And those rocks tend to have, it's a geology term, it tends to have a lot of chromium and vanadium. That's the secret why when you go to Tanzania or Kenya, you get a lot of amazing gemstones there because chromium and vanadium are very critical elements that color a lot of stones, including they work in sapphires, they work in rubies, they work in emeralds, they work in Tsavorite, so they work in a lot of different other garnets. So it's a very important element that you need for gem creation, and that's why that part of East Africa is a gem treasure trove of wonderful, beautiful colored gemstones because they just have in the earth that critical element of chromium and vanadium, plus when it combined with all the other minerals, et cetera, form some of the best gem deposits in the world. These stones, I said before, can run a ton of money. When you see me when I'm selling Tsavorite, trust me, I've gotten very good quality and I get it at a very good price. It is a stone that any collector can own. One thing I do like about it is that it's not limited to its size. Certain gemstones like quartz, if I cut, let's say a citrine, into a 5-pointer, it's really hard to get that color unless I get a very special stone from South Brazil, you know, that has a ton of color. So even when you cut them small, it maintains its color. Tsavorite is a very unique stone. So whether I get the crystals that you see there, whether I cut them into a 10-pointer, a 1-pointer, a 2-pointer, or maybe a half a carat, they will always maintain that color. So that's very unique among gemstones, and I really like stones that are like that. The same thing as the high-quality Tanzanian aquamarine that I get, which is, again, from the same part of the world, that no matter how small I cut it, it maintains its color. So as a designer, it enables me to do more for you, give you the color that you want without giving you the high carat weight, which unfortunately ends up costing a lot more, because, you know, we're all on a budget. We all want the best stone at the best possible price. This, of course, has a high refractive index. Like I said, it has a Mohs rating of 7 to 7.5. So you can safely wear this every day. Important thing, it does not color fade. There are stones that will fade. Like kunzite, you don't want to be suntanning wearing your kunzite. Eventually, you'll burn your skin and you'll lessen the color, given enough time. This, not a problem whatsoever. No treatment, no color fade, hard, durable, rare, gorgeous, fantastic story about it, and it's something that I hope you enjoy. If you love green and you want real brilliance, Tsavorite is an excellent choice for you to have. And I would say of all the garnets in the world, Tsavorite would be the second most expensive next to demontoid, which both are green. So in the whole family of garnets, this is the second most expensive garnet that money can buy. Natural Tsavorite from the scorpion mine.